How's it going? So today we are going to begin the alchemical medicine series. Today's topic is the extraction of herbal medicine. I will take you through how to identify which plants contain which components, how to figure out the best methods of extraction, temperatures, and a whole lot more. Let's get going. Today, specifically, we will cover how to find the information, the workflows used to find and fact check, cross check, validate, make sure that what you're looking at is correct. How to identify components, how to identify which extraction methods work best or will work best for you. The basics of extraction, thermal degradation, DNTAV, safety info, and all of these are going to be examples from lavender. All right, lavandula and angustifolia. To kick us off right now, these are the databases that are associated with general botany and chemistry. So Dr. Duke's phytochemical and ethnobotanical databases, these are USDA run and they're free. They're extremely comprehensive and they let you search by plant or the chemical. It shows the actual concentrations, the biological activities, and ethnobotanical uses. It's probably actually one of the best free resources that you can find. I live in that thing more than I like to admit. KNApSAcK. This is a Japanese database linking plants to their metabolites. And then we have NAPRALERT, which is a natural product database from the University of Illinois, Chicago. It is subscription based, but it's very thorough. PubChem. PubChem it allows you to look up individual components and their properties. Okay, it's often good for extraction references. It's detailed extraction references. The last two are general bioactivity and metabolic pathway info for chemical compounds constituents. These are the workflows that should be used to go and identify and then search for data. All right. Google Scholar, PubMed, the Vesperi, the Hive archives. So those are all historical and underground chemistry forums and some others, right? That can be used. Eroid, it's good for psychoactive plants. So if anybody on here is looking into CBD, if you're looking into uh, THC products, if you're looking into things like that to extract and use for medicine, this would be a good one for you as well. Blue Lotus is another one that this would be good for. Science Madness forums, amateur chemistry. It's a community, right? It's detailed extractions. They have procedures. They have troubleshooting steps and other things on there that you can go and check out if you want to. And all of these, I'll leave links to all these websites in the description for you. Phytochemical methods, and then ResearchGate. So ResearchGate actually has a ton of PDFs. It not just for chemistry and things like that, but just in general. So great resource. Now, aside from these that I've thrown out here for you, okay, PubChem is going to be again. It's going to, and I'll show you the actual examples here in a few. Uh, all right, so extraction. These are the different methods of extraction that can be used for compounds, essential oils specifically, right, from plant materia. Okay, so steam distillation, solvent or water distillation, vacuum distillation, CO2 supercritical, fractional, maceration, tincture, and enfleurage. And so each of these have a very, very, very different function, very different purpose. And I apologize if you guys hear snoring. My senior bulldog is behind me snoring right now. Okay, so steam distillation, it is generally the extraction is performed through the steam, passing through the plant material, vaporizing volatile compounds. The vapor condenses into essential oils and hydrosol. This is actually the most common method for essential oil extractions across the board, I think, now that I'm thinking about it. It's ideal for hardier aromatics such as lavender and peppermint. Solvent and water extraction. So water is technically a solvent, okay? It's it's a liquid. It's considered a solvent. Things dissolve in it, and so yeah, it's technically a solvent. Solvent and water extraction, it uses solvents, hexane, ethanol, or water to dissolve plant compounds. Then it evaporates the solvent, leaving a concentrate or an absolute. This is best for delicate florals like jasmine and rose that actually can't withstand heat. Examples of this could be, through a sock slit. It could be through, and we'll get into all of those in the next video. I'm going to run you through the different types of equipment that you can use. Sock slit extractor, the column, the column extraction that has the solvent that goes up as well. But more commonly, you're going to find for a lot of these, it's going to be CO2, ethanol, hexane. From there it's processed and the compounds are extracted with the use of these different types of solvents, right? Vacuum distillation is a little bit different. So this actually can apply to the same types of plants that maybe their boiling point, their burn off point, their scorching point is the actual compound. What forces it to degrade? Maybe that boiling point is lower than what you can get with the solvent, right? So water is a very, very good example in steam distillation for essential oils. It generally, you will run it right around 100 Celsius. As it's running at 100 Celsius, there are certain plants that the compounds you're trying to extract with the essential oils, they degrade. Okay, they are not useful, and sometimes even will have like a pungent, kind of a pungent smell, which I'll get into here in a few for lavender specifically. Okay, so vacuum distillation, it actually creates a vacuum inside of the distillation apparatus. What this does is it lowers the atmospheric pressure, and so it lowers the boiling point of the solvent. That way you can perform extractions. Now it sounds great in theory. In practice, if you know what you're doing, it's also great. I do not recommend this for new folks who are just getting into any sort of chemistry, anything, because there's a very high chance for breakage. All right. There's a the amount of pressure that's inside of that unit, if it's not controlled properly, that glass can just it can shatter, and it'll just fold in on itself and just explode. And so I don't recommend vacuum for new folks. Okay. CO2 and supercritical extraction. These are some of the cleanest, solvent free ways to capture full spectrums of components. These are also the more premium quality oils that you can find on the market. Some of the more therapeutic grade ones are they kind of align with this as well. And so These systems are very, very, very expensive. They are very large in most cases and not suited for home users. All right. These would be for large manufacturers. Last on the list here, oh, sorry, I didn't scroll down. So we've got fractional distillation. So this separates the compounds by their individual boiling points into distinct fractions. It's used to isolate or remove specific constituents. Um, a very, very, very good example is removing camphor, right, from other things. The things that it's found in the separation is very, very clear. Which, when we get to the distillation of lavender, the separation of essential oil and water, since oil does not mix into water, it is it's very, very, very clear separation there also. All right, so let's talk now about maceration. Maceration is essentially where you take the plant material and you soak it in a warm carrier oil alongside fat soluble compounds to infuse, right, the different compounds out of the plant materia into that fat. So it's pretty simple, and it works actually really, really well for very, very delicate plants like calendula. All right. So if you have any need for a calendula oil for whatever reason, if you use calendula on a regular basis and you want to put it into an oil, you can absolutely do that. All right. And I will teach you in an upcoming video how to do that with the times and all the other things that you need as well. All right. Okay. Tincture is the same thing. Plant material is steeped in alcohol or vinegar or even glycerin for weeks to extract active compounds. Shelf stable liquid. It's basically an herbal remedy. Almost like a syrup, but it's not. I don't know how to describe it. It's not it. Sometimes it has that alcohol-y aftertaste if they don't process it all the way out. Most time it's more of just like a almost like a plant flavor and scent to it, right? You generally would take this internally, and for our purposes, what we're going to make in this series is I will show you how to make tincture, and I will show you how to process it so you don't get that alcohol-y aftertaste and smell. Okay. The last one here is enfleurage. Enfleurage takes a really long time. Uh, It's a very, very, very involved process. Okay. Petals are pressed into layers of odorless fat. This fat, it actually takes the fragrance from the plant material and it absorbs it. The fat is then washed with alcohol. And so for things like jasmine and tuberose, this is how they would do it. Now, these petals daily would be swapped out, repressed. Okay, they would pull them, they would press them into the same material. A lot of the times it would be general like lard or fat. Sometimes it would be layers of coconut. Like today they generally would use coconut oil or things of that nature instead of lard. Uh, Back in the day, traditionally they would absolutely use lard or animal fat. All right. Okay, so pros and cons of each. I'm not going to read all of these. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, the top two are going to be for material that aren't super super sensitive. Vacuum distillation is when you start to get into more sensitive. CO2 supercritical is for very 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 delicate um, material that you can still extract oils from without having to shift. Okay. Then you get into the maceration and the tincture and the enfleurage for very, very, very delicate things. So I'll leave this on the screen here for a minute. If you guys want to take a screenshot or whatever, that way you have it. Okay, extraction for our use. These three right here plus maceration is what I'm going to cover on this channel, at least for now. All right. I may actually go into others later, but for now we're going to stick with these. Okay, so for essential oils, steam distillation is the traditional method. Okay, the steam carries volatile plant oils over at temperatures below their normal boiling point. So, like I stated earlier, we would generally boil our water and get it up to 100 degrees Celsius, and then the steam would pass through. So our boiling point needs to be below that is where I'm going. If we're doing standard steam distillation, our boiling point needs to be below that because that's the boiling point of water, right? That's where our steam's going to come from. So we're going to actually use this steam in this process to effectively split into two separate parts. Well, technically three because we're going to have our caput mortem still in the still, but effectively it's going to break it apart into two parts over into the collection flask. All right, those two components are oils and hydrosol. Okay, so the hydrosol is the water that is infused with the scent of whatever plant, and then the oil is going to be your essential oils. For heat sensitive compounds like many alkaloids, vacuum distillation is preferred because reduced pressure drops that boiling point, like I already stated. This helps avoid thermal decomposition, and we'll dive into what that is, what that looks like here in just a little bit. So maceration and alcohol, they offer a gentle way to extract very delicate components. So the general rule of thumb for simple distillation, the components need to have a boiling point at least 20 to 30 degrees Celsius difference, right, between the solvent and the, so in our case, we're looking for the hydrosol and the oils. And so we need to go and look and at our boiling points and make sure that we've got that uh, at least a 20 to 30 degree difference. If we don't have that, that's when you start getting to fractional distillation and some other things that we'll talk about in another video when I start going to demonstrations and things. All right. Okay. So thermal degradation for aromatics. So this is an example from lavender. So the monoterpenes, they actually start to degrade, and they start to degrade at around 60 degrees Celsius. At 70 degrees Celsius with prolonged exposure, it starts to oxidize. That's fun. It volatilizes rapidly above that boiling point as well, right? So roughly 155 to 200 C. So sequesterpenes, they're heavier. These are the heavier components that are found, like nardol, veranone, etc. They're more heat stable. Okay, they generally hold up to right around. This says 150 to 200 C. I actually found it was right around 158 to 200 C before there's significant degradation. The esters here, the linyl acetate, which is what we're actually after, those are more fragile. Okay, those actually hydrolyze with both heat and moisture. So the steam distillation runs, they have to be efficient and they cannot be prolonged over time. So other material you can distill for a couple hours. So grain, grain spirits and alcohol, that some of those you can distill for a very, very long time, and it's essential oils are a lot more delicate. Okay. um, Oxygenated compounds, these generally degrade faster than the hydrocarbons that are associated with them. So what we need to identify here are the flash point and boiling point. So we need to know if it is flammable, what does that flash point look like? We do not want fire. What is our boiling point? That way we can figure out if the solvent that we're looking at is actually going to work. The extraction method and solubility in different types of solvent, the temperature, the time, and the yield that we should expect, the weights the of solvent to materia. Those are the things that we need to figure out to make any of this. All right. So here is the workflow to identify just general compounds and just the other things that we're trying to find. All right. So Dr. Dupes or NAPSAcK, each component can be looked up on PubChem and then Google Scholar, Science Madness, etc., etc. So I'm 100% sure that some of you are sitting back right now and just based on a lot of the comments that we've been getting on the YouTube channel, I already know somebody's going to comment on this, and so this is why I added the next slide in. Somebody's going to ask me, "What about AI? Why can't I use AI for that?" You absolutely can, but here's the kicker, okay? This was a basic prompt for Claude, Opus 4.7. Okay, I said, tell me the thermal degradation point, the chemical constituents, and their heating properties or healing properties for lavender. The background image there is actually what was output from Claude. And so it wasn't horrible, but there was definitely things in here that were not right. Okay. And so I'm not really a proponent of using AI tools for this type of work exclusively. If you're in a bind, if you cannot find information on something, it can be an excellent tool for you to go and start with. Okay. So blue lotus flower, the extraction of the different apomorphine and others from there that make it a psychoactive, plant. AI that like there's not a lot of research out there on that, and so this right here would actually give you some references and some starting points to go and look at. And so just throwing that out there that it if you're in a bind, like go for it, but I do not recommend this as a nor would I recommend any website now that I think about it as a single source of truth, okay? Including including some of the major ones out there. So a part of scientific research and studies, you learn that every single every single thing that you find, there are different interpretations, different outlooks, different lenses that people view things through, and you have to go out and use your discernment and figure out which ones are right, which ones aren't. If you get more than a few that are saying the same thing, absolutely, it's probably a valid thing. Okay. AI, like I would not trust AI for something like this that you're using for potential medicine. I just wouldn't. All right. But again, it can be used as a starting point. And so ultimately what I'm saying here is don't be reckless, use your judgment. You absolutely have the potential to harm people doing that. Okay. Don't be lazy, do it right, make it quality, straight up. Like that's all I can say. That's the only advice that I can give you. Like don't be out there messing people up. All right. I will point out the discrepancy here in a few, but the flash point and boiling point for our purposes over on the screen there on the very, very bottom left are wrong. Okay, so that is the flash point there says 70 C and the boiling point is it says 220. Okay, so again, always DNTAV. Do not trust, always verify. Okay, this is the basic fundamentals of Research 101. Begin with basic searches, catalog and gather references, terms that seem interesting to you, components, etc. No matter where you're getting information from, make sure you are always going back to validate by cross-referencing everything with reputable websites. Again, proper research 101. Once you identify the constituent that now you need to know how to extract it or them. All right. So in this last slide here, you can see went out, looked up the plant, Lavandula angustifolia, started looking up the very top left there is the a list of activities that are associated with it and different compounds and references and just other things. And so from there, this is the compound isolation. And so for our purposes, if you look at the very first row and the third row, okay, those are the two main constituents that we need to be concerned of, right? Those are while we want to get as much of the profile as possible, those are the two that we're going to want to make sure are still in our product. One, if we have those, the rest of it will just kind of fall together. Okay. So for this exercise, I chose linyl acetate to go through, as it is one of the main constituents found in lavender, and it's used in aromatherapy. It's used in perfumery, just like linalool. Also topical application. It's just a great all-around compound. Okay, and this is PubChem. So you can see just this is the basic interface. You type the name of whatever you're looking for into the search, and it gives you a little drop down right here. I generally will click on the one that is the one in all caps on the very, very top there. From there, I'll go through. Usually the first one or two are the ones that I'm looking for. There are times when I have to scroll a little bit depending on if it's a specific part or specific formulation that would include the certain structure of different things. And so anyway, I got off track. On the right, you will see there's the the primary hazards is showing you as an irritant. It's got the chemical structure. It's got all of the other things, synonyms and molecular formula and other things. So as we keep diving through this same site though, as you scroll down, you'll start to notice that it's actually got a lot of the information we're already looking for, right? So the boiling point here, 220, which was pretty close to what we saw from AI. Okay, the flash point wasn't. The flash point was off a little bit. The solubility you can see on the right, it's got the solubility. It is miscible in water, in ether and ethanol. It is insoluble in water. It is soluble in alcohol, ether, diethyl mineral oil. The list goes on there, right? Solubility in water is poor, which is good. We don't want these to mix in with the water. If they do, it's not going to end well for us. Now, other types of chemicals, you definitely want it to go leach out into the actual solvent. Then you'd split the solvent and the chemical and then extract from there. But that's for another video. Safety information. Okay, so this does have absorption and poisoning and other information as well that you need to know. Spill cleanup procedures, flame and volatility concerns like we'd kind of discussed earlier, and just a bunch of other things. So I definitely recommend you guys go out, check this thing out, and just spend some time here getting used to all the information. All right, Google Scholar. Okay, so I am a very, very big proponent of Google Scholar. The downside is some of these you actually have to have a subscription that you have to pay for to get to articles or links, right? And so that's kind of a downside, but there's great stuff in here. Okay, and so here's a couple of just searches that you can use. So linol acetate extraction from lavandula angustifolia, linol acetate extraction, and some other things, right? There's a bunch of different just ways to do searches. So use whatever method that you normally use and do the thing, right? Digging and digging. This is where persistence comes into play because a lot of the times you will be reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. You'll read through the abstract. You'll be like, oh, this actually looks like exactly what I'm looking for. And then you get into the article, and halfway through, you realize it's not even close. And so this can definitely take some time. Okay. So this is an incorrect sequence for the highest yields, right? Lavender for what we're looking to extract in water. If you were to do water extraction, right, where you basically just boil the thing, send it up soxhlet, you keep boiling it over and over and over and over and over in the actual water, it's going to degrade. It's going to degrade the plant material. It's going to degrade the compounds that we're after. And so that right there is actually incorrect. Steam distillation is higher producing, and which we'll talk about here in a minute. But just an example of the just some misinformation that you guys just things to be aware of. All right, examples. So we're getting closer to some eventual gold here, which just after a while you'll start to find things, right? And so this right here is showing weights, temps, times, and even the use of soxhlet being the most effective, which I would have to say that if you're going to use a soxhlet, it's going to have to be alcohol based, which you can see right there. Yeah, ethanol. Okay, water and lavender. If you sit there and you just boil the lavender, it's going to cook the thing, man. It's not going to end well. And so soxhlet we will get into at some other time, and that's actually how I will show you guys a faster way to make tinctures as well. All right. For this round, though, we're just going to use standard distillation, um, and you're most likely going to find information scattered all over the place. Okay, uh, I recommend 100% if you don't have one, go and get yourself a notebook that you can keep track of some of this stuff in, or Google Drive, or something that you can go back and pull notes from. Okay, but for our purpose, we've found weights and measures. We've found some other things that were very, very useful or needed. Okay, so it looks like, where was it here? 200 milliliters to right there, 30 grams of dried. So that's for hydrodistillation. That is not for steam distillation, and I'm going to stick with that weight. Okay, so finally we find the rest of our procedure for the method that we want to use. The oil produced by water, steam, distillation method contained a higher concentrate, a higher percentage of linol acetate. That's actually what we're after. Okay. And so right there is our golden nugget of information. So linol acetate is one of the most important ester, which determines the quality of oil produced. And this right here is why I chose it. Okay. The oil produced by water steam distillation method possessed the highest linol acetate. The lowest linol acetate was found in the oil produced by water distillation methods followed by steam distillation. Okay, which would make sense because the plant material has been cooked. All right, it's been boiled. All right, so here it is again. Yield by chart. This was from I believe, a different article. And then extraction times and temperatures here. So these temperatures, or the right here is generally when you start looking at these right here, so 150, this is not going to work. All right, this is going to be way, 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 way too. I mean, if we don't want the terpenol, we can go up to that, but if we're trying to isolate just the linalool acetate, then we could potentially go up to 150 and then cut it out, cut the linalool out. But for what we're doing here, we'll go 100 degrees Celsius and just call it a day. Okay, so on the left at the very, very bottom, you'll see linalool with the actual distillation times. Those distillation times are horrible, right? 2, 3, 4 hours is just that's a lot for lavender extraction. Okay, here are the key considerations with any plant extraction, chemical extraction out of plants or really anything. Okay, thermal hydrolysis or decomposition. So at 100 degrees Celsius, the combination of heat, water, and the natural plant acids, these will typically they will hold a pH somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. This forces the linalool acetate to undergo a thermal hydrolysis, and the ester bond breaks, converting the linalool acetate into linalool, right? And acetic acid. Okay, and so this right here is where you're gonna start to get funky smells and some other things. Okay, molecular rearrangement. So the heat breaks down the compound and triggers a carbocation rearrangements. This chemical shuffling permanently converts some of your aromatic linalool acetate into other monoterpenes. Okay. This can include things like geranol, nerol, myrcene, and ocimene. Uh, some of those can be useful in certain types of products for what we're trying to do. It's not useful. Okay. Acid accumulation is another one. As the distillation starts, small amounts of acetic acid are naturally released from the plant, and this lowers the pH of the water. Okay, and so as you're distilling, when you get done, you're going to have to check your pH 100% just to make sure that you are in the range that you want to be in. Diminishing returns is another thing that happens with prolonged heat times. So the most premium ester-rich oils, these are extracted in the first 20 to 30 minutes after the steam flow begins. Okay. This is not the same in perfumery. It's not the same in alcohol distillation and some other things. Okay. Those would come out in fractions of 3. These are 2. And so you want to keep the batch right around 100 degrees Celsius. And this, over time, which everywhere I read online, it was saying 2 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, the last time I ran a 2 hour extraction on lavender, it did not turn out well at all for me. And um, so yeah, a lot of the things that I was seeing online, it said up to 2 hours, but there were, obviously different atmospheric pressures and things like that. So um, anyway, at 2 hours, most of the heavier extracts are taken out. Then the less desirable compounds are pulled, and then it just destroys the sweet top notes that you already collected. Okay. Longer runs will lead to altered scent profiles as well. The linalool acetate provides the sweet, fruity, and the classic fresh lavender aroma that everybody loves, and is a very, 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 very healing smell in the world of aromatherapy. When it degrades into linalool and other alcohols, the oil actually loses its original top notes. And the smells, they become much more heavy and kind of herbaceous, kind of sharp. The lower they also lower it. This also lowers the commercial value. Sorry. It The high quality lavender oil relies on a specific ratio of linalool acetate to linalool, right? And excessive heat skews that ratio, technically lowering the grade and the strength of the batch. So how do we prevent this? To prevent the maximum amount of, or to preserve, sorry, the maximum amount of linalool acetate, distillers actually use in commercial distillers inside of the industry, they actually will use things like shortening the distillation time. Okay, the longer the lavender is actually exposed at 100 degrees Celsius, the more the ester breaks down. Okay, this is not good. All right, and so most commercial distillers, they will pull somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes. The most effective method, though, is to lower the system pressure, the atmospheric pressure inside of the apparatus, and that would be through vacuum distillation. Distilling under a partial vacuum drops the boiling point of water down to roughly 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, and this essentially stops the thermal degradation of our compounds inside of the lavender oil. So I'm going to show you what a sharp run looks like. Okay. I'm not going to do it in this video, obviously. I will create a separate video for it, but we're not going to heat slowly. Generally, you would kind of, when you're distilling alcohol, you would heat up slowly to a certain temperature so you don't scorch your product. We're not going to do that because we have to heat lavender up very, very quickly, very rapidly, so it breaks the cell walls open. Okay, you can sit there with a mescaline porter or a pestle and mortar and break the cell walls open that way. Lavender is not one that I would recommend doing that with steam or water distillation. Okay, the reason being is when you do that, it those walls, when they open it, it releases a liquid that actually turns into like a kind of a mushy. When combined with water, it creates like a kind of a, I don't want to call it a paste because it's more of like a mush. And so what you'll get is a caked on layer in the bubble. And once that caked on layer sits there, the steam, it'll poke a hole or two through that thing, but that's all you're going to get is the steam will only go through those one or two areas. And so what you want is the steam to cover as much of the material as possible. All right. So we're gonna rapidly heat this thing up. We're gonna cut the distillation time down to about 45 minutes, and then we're gonna keep an eye on the smell. Okay. So if you start to smell, if you're doing a distillation of vinegar or of vinegar of lavender specifically, you guys can't tell, it's been a long week and I'm very tired. But if you notice a sharp vinegar-like smell, that is acetic acid. Okay, it's in your distillate, and we can cover how to fix that. You just know that that batch is bad. Toss it. Like, I would stop right then. I would toss it and then start over. There's no point in spinning your wheels, wasting your time at that point. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah. So that when you break open the cell walls, it creates what's called the brick effect. Okay. It actually creates it's a, I don't even know what to call it, but it can actually go up into the column and create other problems as well. So it can create actual plug or back pressure that it can cause explosions and other things too. And so yeah, I just I wouldn't recommend, at least for this. You know, when we get into tinctures and macerations, absolutely you can pestle and mortar the crap out of those things if you want, right? Okay, distillation considerations and procedure. So our boiling point, 221C at 1 atmospheric, 1 ATM, right? So at an atmospheric pressure of 221 Celsius. That is the boiling point of linol acetate. And so our boiling point of water is 100. I would say that we are 120 above, right? So we are well above where our boiling point for water is to where our boiling point um, of our product, where our product come off is, right? Polymerization risk is definitely something that we should worry about here. Though significant thermal degradation of the molecular structure typically occurs at a much higher temperature, right around, I'd say, greater than probably 250 or 260 Celsius. Uh, the monomer will rapidly, you know, self polymerize, and so if it's exposed to excessive heat or light or oxygen for a very long time. And so that right there is why essential oils come in a amber glass bottle as well. Inhibitor usage. So commercial linol acetate, vinyl, I don't know, is typically shipped within, you know, a 3 to 20 parts per million of hydroquinone, which is the actual stabilizer for the product. Okay, if you are redistilling, if you're redistilling, you have to ensure that the inhibitor is presented or added as naked. Uninhibited monomer can polymerize violently in the distillation pot. What does this? All of this mean? This actually means that if you're going to add a stabilizer, you need to ensure that the inhibitor is present and added naked, right? So you don't adulterate, you don't add things to, you don't change, you don't modify, right? And then vacuum distillation if you can, to avoid, you know, localized hot spots, and keep the pot temperature below 50 degrees Celsius. Um, Again, we don't need it for this one. So I will I'm going to I'm planning on showing you guys vacuum distillation at some point. Um, but it won't be with lavender. It will be with a different product. All right. Okay, so horrible. This is all horrible, right? The process is tedious. It takes for freaking ever to find the information. Um, uh, but it's purposeful. All right. Can you imagine your neighbor's little 8-year-old Jimmy is out here slinging some herbal medications for you, right? Like, no, that's not going to be good, right? And so right here we've got um, a built-in safety mechanism into these things, so people don't go out here and just make things that are harming people, okay, or themselves for that matter. Okay, that's the other thing. So first method, normal ranges for essential oils are going to be 100 to 105 degrees Celsius. I generally would say 95 to 105 degrees Celsius, depending on where you're at, you know, water, quality, and all the other things. And so, with that, my friends, it's going to wrap up this very hopefully informative, um, hopefully informative, you know, set of information for you guys. And I know that folks have been waiting for some of the herbal medicine side. I just wanted to get through the just the introductory stuff. Okay, so I'm going to I will have this weekend, I will post a video of just general equipment that that's used. Okay, I will cover just the general things that you would need to extract lavender. Okay, I will also give you a separate method. I will probably talk about tinctures and maybe even maceration, just the long form of those for the folks that want to make some stuff, but they don't have money to do the thing. All right. Till next time. Thank you very much for watching. And if you guys have any questions at all, please let me know. If there's any comments, I absolutely welcome them, all of them, in the comments section down below. As long as they're, they're decent, of a decent stature. Okay, don't come to the channel and be rude to other people, and don't um yeah, just don't come out here and try and show off or whatever, right? Just we're all here for the same thing. Just be nice and be friendly, be kind to each other, love each other. That ultimately, that's we're all here for the same purpose. All right, we're all stuck on this rock. So thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you again very, very soon.